Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Wolves Report online Leicester. And thank you for joining us for episode 115, where tonight we'll give you our player and match analysis of Wolves' 3-0 win against Leicester City, take your questions, and look ahead to Boxing Day evening's game against Manchester United. I'm delighted to welcome back BBC WM's Daz Hale, and of course, my loyal lieutenant in the form of Mark Knock. Tyler's having his hair done for Christmas. And who can blame him? Gentlemen, we're going to do a Christmas podcast, and Wolverhampton Wanderers have won a game of football. Can't even spit it out. Daz, give me your take on Leicester City 0, Wolverhampton Wanderers 3.
Relief, I think, as much as anything. Because I think on the morning of the game, did actually have quite a few butterflies yesterday. So I think we just knew that obviously we're not even halfway through the season, but if we'd have lost yesterday, then it becomes the proverbial mountain, doesn't it? But the way, and I know we can talk about the fact that they weren't very good. Well, we've got beaten by quite a few teams recently who weren't very good. But it just appeared on the day as if I think we had a plan, and it was a clear plan. It was an identifiable plan, which is something, again, that I can tell you how we played, and I've struggled with that in recent weeks, and I think the players have struggled a little bit as well. They knew what they were supposed to be doing, and they carried it out with, aplomb. I have to say that at half time, I got it going round in my head in Dave Jones's first season when we were 3-0 down to Leicester. I don't know if the people have mentioned this, and I thought, if they get one back, and so I couldn't really relax, because even with 10 minutes to go, I thought if they score one, then it's going to get a little bit twitchy again. But in all truthfulness, they never really looked like scoring, and we looked like more likely. So fabulous. Really, really enjoyed it. It was great to hear such a bouncing, noisy, feral away end like it used to be as well. And it felt like a big weight had been lifted. It's only one match, it's only one performance, but it gives us hope, which I think everyone was quickly running out of.
Absolutely. Nocky, you were there on Sunday afternoon. Daz was talking about the bounce and the atmosphere, and you told me that it was probably one of the best away ends you'd experienced in a long time. So, yeah, your take on the away end and Leicester City 0, Wolves 3.
The away end was excellent, and even before we scored the goals, they were back in the team and they were up, and it just needed freshening up, didn't it? I mean, whatever your feelings on Gary O'Neill, it needed to change. We needed to do something different. We've gone a bit stale, and everyone was just got on board straight away, and we're just enjoying the afternoon, I think. But the performance was good. I think we've played better than that, if I'm being honest. But it was a solid performance, and I think we were ruthless in the first half. We had 3 real chances, and we took them. And Leicester were dreadful, but you've still got to finish those chances, and we did that. So I thought the first half was a very ruthless display, and then second half we were professional. We didn't go chasing the 4th and 5th goals. We just kind of let them come at us, and then if there was space, we were going to try and break into it, and if the opportunity come, we try and take it. But it was a very honest, professional performance. I thought it was summed up by Cunha in about 70th minute when he was bursting forward. Didn't have a great deal ahead of him, so he just sat on the ball on the centre circle for about 30 seconds, and then we recycled it and started building again and started knocking it around. So it was just a real disciplined performance, and I think he made some intelligent changes. He threw in everyone who could speak Portuguese, essentially, didn't he? So we could get his message across, and they seem to have bought into it straight away in terms of what he wanted to do. I know it's only one game, but it's a good start for us, and to win an away game in the Premier League 3-0, it doesn't really matter who you're playing against. It's a fantastic result. So it was a really, really good day. Other than Tyler's coat, which is doing the rounds on social media, I can't really criticise anything about the day. It was excellent.
You can't. The big man's not even here to defend himself. But when you're wearing something like that, you don't deserve defending. Daz, let's talk about the change to the team. I mean, not a lot of people would have mentioned that Rodrigo Gomez for Estoril last year did actually play left wing back in a similar setup. So it wasn't an alien position to him. Obviously, he's on his own natural side because he's right-footed. That was a change that we'd looked at potentially because obviously Ryan Aït-Nouri suspension, obviously Doherty then going into right sort of centre back of a 3. There's a few interesting little tweaks, but it worked, and that freshen up was just what we needed.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have called Rodrigo Gomez as left wing back, and he does actually like to play his wide players inverted anyway. That's something that's part of what he's done quite a bit over the years. So we may see more of that. And I think moving Doherty, and he was clearly given the responsibility of dealing with the back stick. And I think they did it all afternoon. Apart from there was one instance in the first half where it went to the back stick and Vardy headed it against one of his own players. He nipped round again and got
From
away.
a corner, yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, and I think, again, so it's a big call bringing in Gomez. And it's Gonzalo Guedes, isn't it? Because he's not the hardest working footballer in Wolverhampton Wanderers. And I think that's been the issue. I don't think he trains particularly well. But he's got end product. And I think I saw the stat yesterday. This season in League and Cup, 491 minutes, which is 5.5 matches, 5 goals and 4 assists. He's got end product. And I think that when you've got someone like that who's got those sort of numbers, then you have to be prepared to get other people to do the running for him a little bit and just let him do what he does, because clearly he's a talent, isn't he? And for the first time, and in fairness to Gary O'Neill on this, because I think he reintegrated him in the summer, and then he struggled a little bit with him because he didn't really trust him to do all the stuff off the ball, which is why he hasn't played him very often. But I think he's even put something on Insta. He was even seen smiling at one point yesterday, and I think he could be key going forward. Again, might just be the right manager at the right time. Having said that, we might sell him in January. Who knows? But it's just, I think he has to play now because he makes a difference when he does.
I think we've talked about it for a while, Nocky, that Wolves' probably technically most gifted front three will be Strand-Larsen, Cunha and Guedes. Now, we tried it at Everton, but obviously we all know how that ended. It probably wasn't the right game for Guedes that day, but there felt real balance. And I know, as Daz said, he's probably not the hardest working footballer. But for me, he still put a shift in. Cunha was almost sort of centre midfield sometimes, absolutely busting. And there was some really unselfish play from Strand-Larsen, particularly for the first goal, the way he sort of made problems. That just, for me, that has to be Wolves' front three going forward, because there's pace, there's intelligence. And as Tyler said a few times ago, Guedes has just got this natural knack of being in the right place at the right time. He's either in the position where he looks like he can lay an assist on, or he can be in a position in front of goal. And it was a great performance.
I really like Guedes. I think he's a very talented player, and I think if he needs to feel loved, he's one of those kind of players who needs an arm around him. And he's clearly got talent. He's clearly a player who can affect the game, and I really like him. I think he's someone that we should be definitely looking at giving a bit of a run now. And I think what we've probably got over the teams in and around us is our front line. He's a lot better than a team in relegation fodder. I think when you look at Cunha, Strand-Larsen, I still think we need to get more out of Strand-Larsen physically. But I think that the quality of the players we've got in those attacking areas, the other teams around us haven't got that. I mean, the only outlet for Leicester yesterday really was to try and lump one over the top for Vardy, or to try and get Mavadivi on the ball wide, and we dealt with that very, very easily, whereas we seem to have threats all over the pitch. And you could see that with the second goal, with a fantastic raking ball from Doherty. I mean, all right, they should have cut it out, but it's the run from Rodrigo that gets him in behind, and he finishes it. And we've got that movement, we've got that pace, and Guedes is an intelligent footballer who seems to play really well with Cunha. They link up nicely together. So for me, they're the best options we've got at the moment. That's probably going to change when Cunha's ban's announced, but as it stands at the minute, that's the three that you'd be wanting to play against Man United and run a games together. And I feel like we've got something to work with there.
Yeah, absolutely. It just feels, look, there's a bit of everything with those. I think in terms of the ability to find the space, Guedes has got that. Strand-Larsen does a lot of unselfish work. Again, I don't think we play to his strengths. I think we don't get enough crosses in the box for him, because he's somebody that he's a box finisher and he's great in the air. And Cunha, he's a maverick, isn't he? And if he's allowed to play, Daz, Cunha's is as good as anybody in that league on his day. And after a few quiet weeks, he looked like he was back to himself again.
Yeah. Well, we've actually scored more goals than Villa. We've scored more goals than a lot of teams at the top end of the table. But we all know where the issue has lain in recent weeks. And obviously, I don't know about you, I was even waiting yesterday for an announcement to come through from the FA. I thought they really are.
You know they're going to do it Christmas Eve, just to make Christmas nice.
Yeah, but we've got one extra game out of him. I think the interesting thing there, which was pointed out to me by Mike Taylor at my friend and colleague at BBC Radio WM, is the charge isn't one of violent conduct, it's one of misconduct. So it might not be quite as horrific as we're all dreading, because there's a big difference there. But I mean, it looks at the moment, if everybody's fit, then I know you might come on to this a bit later, but it looks like it could be tailor-made for Ryan Aït-Nouri, actually, that position, because he's clearly got all that going forward. Probably he's not quite as good as that, but he doesn't like defending, does he? So that's, I mean, he's got other options as well in people like Bellegarde, Forbes, possibly Sarabia if he makes a recovery. And so I think he's got some options. But when you lose Cunha, it's a big miss, because he's our best player. I don't think there's any...
Yeah, no doubt about it. But in terms of that maverick position where you're allowed to have a bit of fun and make things happen, then Ryan Aït-Nouri, like I said, probably not the same pedigree, but someone that will happily take people on left and right and make things happen for other people as well. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Hopefully that's not part of the debate.
In that maverick, and he can do what he wants. If he'd have been wearing like a camouflage coat, that would have been the absolute thing, you know.
We're all Tyler getting pelters. He's not even on the show. Not even on the show.
It is
one of the. I mean, this is one of the questions later on, Daz, as well. But what was the main difference, really? Because I mean, was it because is it the new manager bounce that's done us good? Is there a fresh belief from the squad? Because from a team that was just lost in injury time to one of the teams that were favourites for relegation, to go to another relegation favourite and absolutely pump them, and then the second half being total control, chalk and cheese. The guys had 3 days training, and Wolves look a completely different team.
Yeah, we could have gone. If we go one down, it might have been a different sort of afternoon. Maybe it was just our day. Maybe it was the manager bounce. Maybe it was the changes he made. Maybe it was, as I mentioned at the start, we looked like we actually had a clear plan. And I think it's a club that, I mean, it might be all of those, it might be none of those. I think we'll know more after 6 games, won't we? But it's a club that's been desperately crying out for strong leadership, I think, both on and off the pitch, and a bit of structure, a clear and a consistent message, not one that changes with every look of the iPad. And I don't want to throw the lad under the bus, but it got to that point where it just seemed to be making it up as they were going along, and everybody seemed to be a little bit confused by the end of it, and including him. Everyone just seemed to be completely like just I don't know, just bamboozled, just in shock. So it's all of those things. It probably comes in, and you've got a guy coming in with gravitas. And I know people have made a lot of, you know, how many clubs he's had, but you know, when you look at what he's won and where he's won it, he's clearly no mug. And he's just come in a different voice. And it's a bit odd how they haven't revealed who his staff are yet. I mean, I think that's a bit strange when he's brought 5 new staff in and no one knows their names, unless it's for security reasons, social security reasons. But so it might just be all that. But I say we'll know a little bit more, I think, after a few games. It might just have been one of those days yesterday where everything went right for us and everything went wrong for them. But for me, it just seemed to be a plan, and a clear plan, and a simple plan, and I don't think that's a bad starting point, really.
Absolutely. People have talked about his recent pedigree, but in terms of, I know we mentioned this last week on the podcast, but we're talking about the most decorated manager that's come to Wolves under the Fosun era. I know Bruno Lage, I think, had won the league title. I think Nuno had won a Portuguese cup. This guy's won multiple league titles and cups across Europe. You don't fluke those kind of trophies and medals. Granted, his career's gone a little bit of a different path the last few years, but this is a guy with a serious pedigree. Yeah,
he understands the game, doesn't he? And I think all he did yesterday, he just went stupid simple. He played players in the right position. He gave them a simple task to do, and they accomplished it. If you're a left wing back, you stay left wing back. If you're going to attack from a midfield area, you're going to attack. And with Andre and Gomez, them two in midfield, it was very clear what the message was for them, was to break up the attacks, start the attacks for us, get the ball and distribute it to your flair players. It's not a complicated game, but I do feel, I agree with Daz. I think he overcomplicated things, O'Neill did, especially towards the end. He was trying to get too many people to do too many different things. When we had systems where Gomez was playing as a wide attacker and Lamina was playing up there, just play players in their proper positions. And
he said that, didn't he? He said players in their natural positions. It's one of the first things he said.
But how long have we been saying that you've got to make yourself
Yeah.
You got to make yourself hard to beat. That's all you got to do. When you're in a relegation battle, you make yourself difficult to beat, and then when you've got the attacking quality we've got, you'll start winning football matches. Because as I said, we scored more goals than a lot of teams in this division. If we can learn to defend, there's no reason you can't climb the table. But you just cut those basic errors out, cut the stupidity out, and just make yourself a solid unit that teams have to break down, as opposed to giving goals away every week. And that's just, it's a foothold. I don't think you should get too excited at this stage because we were playing a poor side, but it's a foothold. That's what we needed.
I'll tell you something else I noticed, and this may have been more down to him because of what happened. Well, I'll explain this. I thought Jose Sarr had a higher starting position yesterday. Now, you may remember last time we went to Leicester, Dean Smith had just taken over and we were 1-0 up. I think Cunha scored. And for about 40 minutes, we absolutely played him off the park. And then there was one long ball forward again. And I think that Jose Sarr had lost a bit of concentration and switched off because we were so on top. Yeah. And he was a little bit late coming out and he clattered in. Vardy does what Vardy does. And he's fair play to him. I thought he was their best player yesterday. Wins a penalty. And the game changes. I thought yesterday he wasn't a sweeper keeper, but he seemed more alive. And I think his starting position was a lot higher because he knew that's what their tactic was. And obviously there was a couple of times in the game, wasn't there? Especially in the first half. Was it 0-0 at the time when it went through?
It was, yeah. First chance after about 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah. So I thought I do criticise him a fair bit. I thought that was his most assured game of the season yesterday, Jose Sarr.
Yeah, I liked his aggression as well, Daz. I liked the fact that he was punching corners and he was a bit more physical because he's not a small guy. He's somebody that really flashes in and out of confidence. There's no question his ability as a shot stopper. It's fantastic, but it's the erratic side of his game where you don't really know what's going to happen. But I thought he did well. But we'll go on to player ratings shortly.
I think just before you carry on with that, Matt, I think what we did differently that helped Jose Sarr is we stopped prattling around at the back. We weren't scared just to lump the ball forward if we needed to do so. We get the ball out, we try and play, but if the option wasn't there, we just launched it downfield. Really we've stopped putting ourselves in trouble. How many times have we given the ball away? I think we probably give the ball away more than any other team in the division because we try that at the back and we end up losing the ball. Whereas yesterday, there was 2 or 3 times we just launched it and got the ball away.
And we're okay with that. We're not snobs. Obviously, if there's an opportunity, I mean, I thought, Nocky, the way they managed the game in the second half and played the little triangles out the back, it was, for a purist ball, it was fantastic. You draw them in, play the triangle, and they could frustrate them. And as you said, when Cunha had his foot on the ball on the halfway line, they were just mad because Wolves were totally controlling the game.
Yeah,
it was great. But equally, don't be afraid to lump it. You've got a 6'3" giant Norwegian. You know what? He's strong, and he was part of that first goal. But Nocky, let's go on to that first goal. Nelson Semedo clips the ball down. Strand Larsen is sort of jostling for space with Jan Vestergaard. He sort of blocks him a little bit, and it allows Guedes to get in between him and Cody. Gets clattered by Cody, but scores. For me, there's a lot of credit due for Strand Larsen for being an absolute pain, but equally credit for a really smart, instinctive finish from Guedes.
Yeah, he's my only criticism of Strand Larsen, because I think he's a really good player, is I want him to be more physical. We saw what Delap did to us with that physicality, and I think Larsen's a similar build. He should be doing the same, and he did it well. He just gave him a little nudge. It wasn't much. It was just enough to put him under the ball, and Guedes has reacted really well to it. And, I mean, you could pick holes in it if you want, if you're from a Leicester perspective, but for us, it's a good bit of movement to duck inside the defender, and he's got there ahead of Cody, and it's low, it's down into the to the goalkeeper's feet and bounced up into the net. So really good finish, really, really tidy move. And he's quite an instinctive striker, Guedes. He's hit a few like that for us. So it was a lovely goal, but it was just a subtle little nudge which took Vestergaard out of it. And it was, it settled us down really well, because up till then it was a relatively even game. But as soon as we got that, we just took full control from there.
Yeah, I think after the opening goal, Daz, Wolves were the better team, but it wasn't long before it was 2-0. Matt Doherty playing right centre-back, probably not known for his, as Nocky said, he's raking cross-field balls, but he's hit that with the laces, with a bit of spin on it. Granted, it's poor defending, but you have to gamble in those situations. Rodrigo Gomez has gambled on the situation. He's just managed to control it within the rules with the the shirt sleeve just about in place. It's kind of bobbled past the keeper, but equally he's gambled, he's read the situation, and good footballers do that. They don't always have to be back heels and screamers and curlers. It's his intelligence and persistence that's given Wolves a second goal.
It's a lost cause, isn't it? I mean, it is shocking defending, and it's like, but he has made the run ultimately. Otherwise, Justin would never say, "Oh, he's read the game well." Justin there, he's let it go. Shocking defending, but we've been guilty of that enough throughout the campaign, and and again, it was a big moment for Gomez. Obviously, it was a rare start for him, and to get that goal, it's only going to do him good. But I think that, that's when their crowd really turned, and they were really. It was music to our ears because they were slaughtering their team by then, and unfortunately on this occasion, usually when things like that happen, we manage to find a way to change the atmosphere in the stadium by giving them a put up. But that didn't happen, and we got the third one soon after. And again, but going back to that first one, and then you'll go on to the third one. It's Guedes in that little pocket, that little area as well that we haven't perhaps used enough this season. And with Strand Larsen, it's his first season in the Premier League, and it is, and he's started every single game. So I don't know if anyone else has actually. So he's learning, but he's only going to get bigger. He's only going to get better. He's going to get stronger, and I think I agree. I think he doesn't hold the ball up as well as he should do at times either, and sometimes he looks a little bit lumbering. But he's the real deal, and I think he's just going to get stronger and better.
Yeah, I want to give Matt Doherty a bit of credit for that goal as well. Now, obviously, the last one similar to this was away at Fulham, but that's a goal that Wolves have scored twice now recently. With Mario Lemina picked the pass out for Cunha, probably a bit more spectacular, and it came a bit more off. But that crossfield ball is definitely a weapon for Wolves, because if Mario's playing there, he can do it. Matt Doherty had something in his locker I didn't think he had. But credit to Matt Doherty. And if you're playing that pass, the pass is only as good as the run. Rodrigo Gomez has gambled.
Yeah.
You know what? Probably not the most silky finishes, but Gary Lineker didn't score screamers. The goal's a goal, Nocky, isn't it? So right place, right time. Credit to the lad. Go on, Nocky.
Yeah, I think we've almost regressed to the Nuno days. I don't think it's a bad place to regress to, because we scored so many goals from that crossfield ball. You had Cody, you had Neves trying to find the wing backs or the attacking players. You hit a crossfield ball, and if you get it right, you can take out a whole back line. So, as we said at the start, it's back to basics, isn't it? It's doing the simple, stupid stuff that is effective in these kind of games. And that if Rodrigo doesn't make the run, we don't score the goal. If Guedes doesn't get in that little pocket of space, we don't score the goal. So, you do the basics, you give yourself a chance.
Absolutely. On to the third goal, Daz. Again, nice ball down the line. More work off the ball from Guedes to find him in position. He's held up his man. Now, I don't think this has had enough credit, but I think I might have seen it on Sky them talk about it. The little ball into Cunha's feet was great, but the way he took that touch, it was almost, I don't think it's not talked about because it looked effortless. He's glided with the ball past his man. He's looked up. I don't know if the keeper should do better, but they say hit it across the keeper. He did that. For me, that's my favourite goal, because the ball down the channel, the unselfish play, the touch and the finish, it was just sublime confidence football. It was fantastic.
The awareness as well from Guedes initially as well, because he knew that from his body shape, he knew that Cunha had made the run inside. And again, you can look at the defending on it, and they are looking at the goalkeeper on it, but it's the target, and it's just the finish from Cunha is a confident finish. It's of a player who I think he just, as soon as it comes to him, you could almost, I think everybody in the ground knew he was going to score it. There was that it was almost a sense of inevitability about it, but just, I think it shows just the form that he's in at the moment. So to get that, it felt like, it literally did feel like Christmas had come early. But then second half, they often say no two games of football, no two halves of football are the same. But I think the manager was a little bit critical of the way that we perhaps didn't push on for more, which again shows his mindset and his mentality, looking ahead. But I thought we managed the game really, really well second half.
Just one final thing on that last goal before we talk about the game management, okay? What was interesting for me is that we found Goncalo Guedes and Cunha both in a wide right position in the build-up for that goal, which tells me it's going to be a little bit more fluid with those two, because obviously Cunha's been a bit more left central, and that's where he's picking up the ball, cutting inside, and Guedes on the right. But to find them both over there tells we're playing with quite a fluid formation as well with this new manager.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, I think Cunha was quite fluid under O'Neill. He kind of went where he wanted, didn't he? He picked up pockets of space in midfield. He dropped deep to pick the ball up, and he'd just kind of float wherever he wanted to. But good players know where the ball's going to go, and they know where the space is going to be. And he always seems to just tiptoe into those areas. It's poor defending again because he's managed to cut across a defender who should have been goal side of him. But the finish is good. They've been quite critical of the keeper, but he's 5-6 yards away
It
from
looks
him.
good off the post as well, doesn't it? It sounds
It does,
nice.
yeah. It does, yeah. It was a nice finish. I mean, it was the build-up play. I like the fluid football, and again, it came from the wing-backs, and we get ourselves into attacking areas. Guedes, some players are going to flash that across the face of goal. He's got the presence of mind just to turn back inside and pick out Cunha, and the finish is a good finish into the bottom corner. I think that's 9 for him this season. I think scoring 9 goals in a team that's been in the bottom 3 all season, that's really impressive. If he doesn't get a hefty ban, he could be nudging 15. Maybe even not far from 24.
Well, we're not even halfway through the season, are we? And he's flirting with double figures. So
it's a fantastic record for a team that's struggling.
Yeah,
it might penalties at some point and all that might, So
yeah.
I've given up on them. Daz.
We only give them away, Daz. We don't get them.
Yeah. Moving on to the player ratings. Before we do, you are listening and watching episode 115 of the Wolves Report with BBC WM's Daz Hale, Mark Knock, and myself, Ryan Leicester. Knocky, let's go through the player ratings. Let's talk about the rejuvenated Jose Sarr. Looked confident, as Daz says, patrolling the edge of his box. Didn't do anything, no brain farts. Did it all simple. Good performance from Jose Sarr.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I thought he was finished at Wolves. I thought that was curtains for him. But he came back in and I thought he was excellent. He had a couple of moments where he had to react. The Jamie Vardy one in particular, where you certainly don't want to go a goal down. He did well with that. I can only remember him kind of shanking one out of play. But other than that, I thought he was really solid. He did everything well. He looked brave from corners. He controlled his area quite well. So you probably got to give him an 8, haven't you, really? Because it was a solid performance.
Yeah, I think the defence, for whatever was different or wasn't, I think we protected him quite well. Obviously, you're going to be susceptible to a through ball from Jamie Vardy. Anybody will be because he's master of being on the shoulder of the centre-back. He had one in the second half, but Sarr's pushed him wide. And the one in the first half, he's managed to block him. So, did what was asked of him. I liked how aggressive he was from corners. I think he did a punch. He's caught a few things. He looks like he'd had a fresh start, like many of them has. Daz, moving on to the 3 centre-backs, starting with Matt Doherty. A little bit of a surprise out there choice to play him right centre-back, but probably mainly for his aerial prowess, very strong in the air. Obviously an old pro at Wolves now and an all-round good performance.
My friend Oscar sent me a stat last night saying that was the 9th Wolves manager he's played under.
Wow.
I thought he was the pick of the defence. I think that he's quite vocal as well, Doherty, which perhaps goes on a little bit at times as well. And he used the ball well, but I thought he was the most dominant of the 3 in the centre, in the 3 centre-backs. And I think it was his job to deal with that ball to the back, and I think he did that as well. So for me, he was the pick of the back 3, and I'd give him an 8.
Excellent.
Can I ask you on that before we move on that, Daz? How did he recognise that he should go at centre half, where the week before we'd had O'Neill, who worked with his players for such a long time, who played Semedo in that position, and then played Doherty, right?
In fairness, he has used him once. I think he played him against Blackpool in the League Cup there, didn't he, a couple of years ago for a bit. But again, it's a fresh pair of eyes, isn't it? And I thought he'd bring Dawson back, so I was quite bring Dawson back. So I think it's one of those where he just looks at them on the training ground, and he'll have watched them a lot, won't he, as well? So again, good management, fair play. Because again, if you'd have asked me on Saturday night, yes, I would never have gone Rodrigo Gomez up left wing back, and I would not have played Matt Doherty as right centre back. So fair play to the manager.
Clean sheet and a 3-0 win, off to an absolute flyer. Middle of the centre backs, Knocky, Santiago Bueno, someone that seems to have found his feet a bit more recently, been a regular at Wolves, comfortable on the ball, probably not as strong as we'd like, but certainly aggressive. And he had Vardy rattled a few times, which is worth a bonus point of anyone's money.
I like Bueno, but I certainly think it's one of the areas we need to be upgrading. He's not quite physical enough for me. He seems to get a little bit out muscled from time to time, and he does get caught out for pace as well. I think he's he's a player you want to keep in the squad, certainly, but I do think it's an area we need to be looking to upgrade. But in terms of this performance, he was good. He was pretty controlled. He didn't get caught out. His positional sense was good. Vardy got off his shoulder once, but he's done that to every defender in the league at some point, so there's no issue there. He was pretty solid, yeah. I mean, I don't think that really caused us too many problems, but what he did have to deal with, he did well, and he was always in sort of the right areas. So a decent performance from him.
Rating?
Oh, clean sheet, I think you've probably got to give him a 7 or 8, to be fair, which is a bit harsh because I just said I'm going to upgrade him, but based on that performance, it was, yeah, you probably got to give him a 7 or an 8.
I'll move on to Toti Gomez, a really interesting one for me. Toti Gomez, for me, is somebody that peaks against teams who are far better than Wolves. When he doesn't have a lot of the ball, when he's asked to defend, like he did against Kulusevski, like he did against Phil Foden, against Diaby. When he's asked to mark a very good footballer, he's very good. But I think Toti gets exposed when he gets more of the ball, and his distribution, especially when his confidence is down, lets him down a little bit. And I thought he was quite wasteful on the ball. However, Wolves got a clean sheet, and he was a part of that. Granted, he had a few shanks here and there, and it was his crazy header that gave us the corner the other week. So Toti worries me, and I understand the criticism that Tyler gives him, but Wolves got a clean sheet. Did he play well? No. But was he part of a team that defended well? Yes. So, Daz, I can see you've got some thoughts on Toti.
Premier League footballer, and he gives everything. And there was that one as well, where I think it would have been ruled out for offside, actually.
Yeah, when he swung at it.
Straight through his legs.
He makes me nervous. And I think that we all know where we need to strengthen, and I think he's have him in the squad, come in and do a job here and there, a game here and there. And I agree with you, when he's given a man marking job, whether it's a concentration thing again, I don't know, but he'd be the first one I'd be looking at replacing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of physical attributes and a specimen, in terms of strength and speed, aggression, fantastic. He just really concerns me that when he has time on the ball, when he hasn't got time to think about it, I'm not particularly worried. When he's got time to play, then you just like this. Yeah. It makes, honestly, it puts Tyler off his breakfast. Moving on to the wing backs, you can do them both for me, Nocky. Nelson Semedo on the right, and the surprise inclusion of Rodrigo Gomez, who did play left back last season for Estoril.
I thought they were both excellent. You know, Rodrigo's got his goal. He was always lively. He seemed to have a bit more confidence about him.
Busy,
last few times. Yeah, busy. I mean, pre-season, I thought we got an absolute gem here, and then it just hasn't seemed to work for him so far. But he seemed to be willing to drive forward, and he must be a right pain to play against because he just starts running and he's playing off people's shoulders. So I like him. I think there's definitely something about him. He's one of them that's going to develop, and I think he's going to develop into a very good footballer. But he seems to like that position. He seems to feel comfortable there. So, yeah, really, really solid. I was pleased with him, and it was clearly his best game in a Wolves shirt. But he seemed to know what he was doing. He seemed to understand his job, which when you're a young player like that, is really important. And Semedo, I thought, was excellent. He got himself an assist. He was involved in the third goal as well. I mean, you know my feelings on Semedo. I'd be doing all we can to get him a new contract, but I think he's a really, really good player, and it was an excellent performance from him. I can't criticise either of them at all.
Pair of eights.
Yeah, I think it's got to be.
Absolutely. Daz, moving on to the centre midfield, we're led to believe that Mario Lemina had a slight problem with his calf and was unavailable for there. No point taking a risk with a busy Christmas schedule. However, I think at the moment, for me, that's a midfield pairing that I've wanted to see, because I just think going forward, that's probably Wolves' future centre midfield. Andre, who had gone massively off form, probably not used correctly, in my opinion. He's an absolutely class operator, tidies things up, and João Gomez operates a little bit harder at busy. I thought it's a pairing that worked well, and it's an area I thought the Wolves were very comfortable in.
And again, I'd have started Doyle, but I agree with you. I thought that double pivot, they're terrific. They dovetailed together really well. Obviously, they've got a lot in common with each other. I think that they perhaps played slightly deeper as well, just to protect the three behind him a little bit more, to give us that little bit more of a solid base. And I agree with you now that you can't, if Mario Lemina's fit Boxing Day, you don't come back in. He has to keep those two now, because to me they just seem to have like some sort of like chemistry's probably pulling it too far, but they just seem to work really, really well together. And I think it's solid.
Yeah, really good tandem. Ratings for them both, Daz?
Both 8s, solid 8s.
Knocking, moving on to who should we start with here? Strand Larson. For me, a bit of an unsung hero. I think he's quite often an unsung hero. Again, as we mentioned, I don't think Wolves use him enough, but he's played his part. He's been a pain for Vestergaard for the goal. And he's played his part in a massive win.
Yeah, I mean, he occupied Cody and Vestergaard, didn't he? He made it difficult for them. He was physical. He was heavily involved in the first goal just by leaning on Vestergaard. As I said, I want to see a bit more from him from a physical perspective. But I really like him. I think from what I've seen of him so far, he's got something about him that makes me think he's going to flourish in English football when he fully settles in and he fully gets to that physical stage of it and completely understands how we operate in this country. He's going to score a lot of goals. And I don't know, he just seems to link things up really well. He picks up nice positions and he does the unselfish stuff as well. And he's happy to lay the ball off and he'll bring other people into it. And I just think as he naturally develops through, he's going to get more and more goals. But I do think we need to start playing to his strengths a bit more. I don't think we put enough crosses in. I don't think we give him enough to attack. But I think what we will start doing a little bit more now is trying to use him as a little bit of an out ball, which we haven't done too much just to get us up the field. But yeah, really good performance. He's probably a 7 for me because he was the one of the front line that didn't score essentially. But I thought his performance was good. And he's definitely getting better and better.
It's just game. He just and again, it's probably an easy comparison to make, but I look at Chris Wood and think he could be that type of player in a few years. Got the same sort of attributes, and I think that it would help if they get somebody, and they've tried to do it a little bit more, and again, it happened a bit more yesterday. Somebody's playing a little bit closer to him as well, I think, so he's not quite so isolated at times when he's just a long ball, and he's like, well, what do I do with this? But it's a learning curve for him. But I think it's telling that he started every single Premier League match.
Yeah. I mean, Guedes and Cunha must be delighted because he does so much unselfish work, and his work and his presence creates the spaces for them.
We can't replace him, can we? We've got no one to replace him with. If he was to get injured or to get suspended, you'd really feel it because you haven't got anyone who can do that kind of job. So he's vital for us at the minute.
Get Wang on. We still
no need for that. Daz.
It's Christmas, Daz. Don't do that.
What's wrong? Gaz. It's both. We've called him Gaz now. Daz, tell us about Matheus Cunha's performance.
Well, it was a nice surprise, a pleasant surprise to see him playing out there, weren't it? And I thought it was terrific again, wasn't it? It was just his movement, and as you said, there's been a couple of games recently where he's just perhaps been slightly off it, and then you did wonder even when he started yesterday. How he'd react to what's going on in the last week or so, but I thought he was terrific and intelligent. Took his goal really, really well. But he just carries the ball effortlessly, doesn't he, up the field, and he gets us up the field. And what I do like about him is that he's an intelligent footballer. So he's not just like get the ball and get your head down and charge forward like maybe Adama would have done. Because you mentioned that time in the second half yesterday when there was nothing on, so he literally just stood there and just thought, okay, I'll have a look at me. He's got a footballing brain, and again, he's another player who I don't think he's reached his peak yet. I think there's more to come from him.
Yeah, I was really impressed. I like the way as well. At times when Wolves were in control of the game and not looking to push, he was almost a third centre midfielder, but he come in and he was happy to come and carry it 5 or 10 yards. And that's someone, I know he's been criticised before with the previous manager, but that's someone that's really playing for the team. You're almost got into, like, at times he was a number 8 in the second half, but it suited him because talent can play anywhere. And granted,
I think that's part of the problem was that then it's worked because he's done really well. He's got a lot of goals that they were trying to make him a little bit more disciplined and make him a little bit more, not robotic, but a little bit more structured, where he likes to play off the cuff. Now and again, if you're going back to, if you have got a João Gomez and an Andre, just protecting, then, and you've got the extra defender as well, it maybe gives him a little bit more license to do that, because if we lose the ball, they've still got that solid base behind. Whereas before, it was like, okay, we're wide open now.
Yeah, really pleased with him, and he looks again. I know he's gone quiet for a little bit, but he looked revitalised. He looked like the player that we saw a month ago. Last but not least, Goncalo Guedes. I'll talk about him. A real natural talent. Ran himself into the ground. I didn't see. I mean, maybe he doesn't track back as we've talked about it, but I didn't see a lack of effort or running. When you're that good, I'm happy for him to. You know what? To just do the business at the top end of the pitch. If you've got Doherty and you've got Semedo on that side, you can kind of and you've got João Gomez there. You can kind of let him knock. You can let him the freedom and an assist and the goal says it all for me. I hope if this is the player that we're seeing, I hope he doesn't go in January.
Do you know the biggest thing I could say about him yesterday was that he looked like he wanted to be there. He looked like he wanted to be in that team. And there's been other occasions where he's. You know, in the 2 goals he got, I think was it Blackpool in the cup? I can't remember who it was now, but he got a couple of goals. And I know you're only playing a lower league side, but it was very kind of I've scored. I'm going to walk back now. And he scored against Burnley? Yeah, that was it, Burnley. And then he scored against Fulham, and I know it was the last minute and he's wrapped it up, but there was kind of muted celebrations. But he got his goal and he celebrated when he got up, and then he set up Cunha for the goal, and he was fist pumping, and he seemed really part of it. Yeah. And he, to see him wanting to be in that team, I think if you can get that out of him and really make him feel settled and let him know that he's a part of the group, I think he's going to get better and better, because there's clearly a very, very talented player there. You've just got to get it out of him, and he shows moments of genuine quality. And I really think that Guedes and Cunha together with Strand Larsen, I think that's going to be really dangerous for a lot of teams. So I was really pleased to see how he performed and how he reacted to the goals as well. It was important, I think.
8.5 for me, Wolves man of the match.
Sorry, Ron, you mentioned when he got the knock, and then later on as well, he was limping, but he didn't want to. Maybe in days gone by, he'd have gone off, but now he wanted to stick it out. He wanted to be part of it, which is really encouraging.
Yeah, we mentioned earlier on, Daz, as well, just before we finish up on this, that the manager was saying, we probably wanted more. Wolves could have had at least 2 more goals that second half. They've missed 2 sitters. Really, there's 2 headers there that it could have been 5. And this isn't the conversation I was expecting to have last week. But without even being that attack in the second half, Wolves could have had 2 more goals, and it would have been an incredible scoreline. This is episode 115 of the Wolves Report with BBC WM's Daz Hale, our captain Mark Knock, and myself, your host Ryan Leicester. If you are watching live, I appreciate that. We get up as many comments as we can. You can watch on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and I'll upload to Spotify after the show as well. Any follows, likes, it will be appreciated as we slowly grow the show. Thank you for your support in 2024. Let's get on to some questions. John T asked, snap decision, yes or no? After what you've briefly heard from VP, do we survive? Daz?
Got hope now. Well, I'm going to give a politician's answer. There's more than half
splinters in the Hale house.
There's more than half a season to go, and player for player, I think that we have more than enough to stay in this division. And at the moment, it looks like us and the 3 teams who came up. That could change. There could be a points deduction for someone. There could be another team who goes on a bad run. If we just have even moderate form in the second half of the season, we'll survive. Because I do think we're better. Well, I think even though we've got beaten by Ipswich last week, I think we're better than those 3 teams. And so I think the bare minimum, we've got hope. Yeah, we're going to stay up. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
I think the chance we've probably got, and I didn't think we had a chance this time last week, but the chance I think we've got is how poor the 3 sides are that came up. And I do think all 3 are desperate. And as Daz said, I know that Ipswich beat us, but they're not a good side. They're a championship side. So I feel like we've got a chance now. It's really hard to say because we don't know what we're going to look like after the January window slams shut. We don't know exactly how Vitor's going to settle into what he wants to do. And you can take a game in isolation like yesterday and think that that's it. We're going to, we're going to run up the league. But first game under O'Neill, we went to Man Utd and looked like Real Madrid for the game. We absolutely dominated that match. We ended up losing it, but you thought, we've got a real good manager here, and it fell apart relatively quickly. So I don't want to get too excited, but I'd had us finished, done and dusted, and I was getting me dusting off my book for championship grounds for next season. But now after that and seeing how effective we can be in attacking areas and how poor Leicester were, I've got a bit of hope now.
There we go. What would Tyler say? Okay.
He'd say, no, we're going down.
John C, thank you for being part of the Wolves report. I've grouped this next one together. You've all asked similar questions, so get them all in one go. Steve Lees and Aidan John, if Cunha gets a ban, say 4 or 5 game ban, how do we cover for that? Is it within the squad with Guedes, etc., or do we need to get someone in on loan? Now, surprisingly enough, we've not heard anything, and Dazzy's comments there are really interesting in terms of not violent conduct for misconduct. I don't know many players that have been banned for 5 games for misconduct. Certainly not for stealing someone's glasses, which is a terrible thing to do, and I wouldn't recommend anyone to do it. However, I mean, he did lose his head a bit, but Daz answers in the squad. It's a really tough one, isn't it? And you kind of hope the FA or whoever's in charge of it wouldn't drop Cunha a nice 5 game ban on Christmas Eve just to give Wolves a bit of an untasty Christmas pudding, but we just don't know.
But one of the FA Cup games should be one of them anyway. Not as though I want to write off the FA Cup by any stretch of the imagination. So I don't know. I mean, it was Mike Taylor who said that to me. So if you look at the word, and it's misconduct, not violent conduct. So I don't know. Is the answer within the squad? Look, it'll have to be unless they do bring someone in. And I don't. I mean, there is money to spend, and they will be bringing players in. Ideally, as soon as that bloody window opens, we'd only be scratching around again on another trolley dash on the. Surely they've learnt a lesson on that now. Obviously, the priorities at the back. But so, I mean, you look at it, and we mentioned before, there's Ryan Aitnouri. There's the aforementioned Wang, who's done the square root of sod all throughout 2024. So he'll be fresh. There's Bellegarde, who's another one. There's Sarabia. There's Carlos Forbes. So it may be that's what he has to deal with. But I do think his priority still, even without Cunha, is to just make sure, as Nock said at the start, make us hard to beat. Make us instead of 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s, it's got to be 0s and 1s, and then we've got a chance of just getting a few draws, a few, shithousing, a few 1-0s or whatever, and that'll take the table. So yeah, I mean, hopefully, who knows? Because they could throw a 6-match ban at him. They could throw a 2-match and a fine and suspended. You just don't know. You don't know what they're thinking, and they clearly haven't even had the meeting yet. They've been too busy going out.
It's bizarre because you kind of expected when a player is charged. Now, I think we'd have heard if he'd have been banned, Wolves had appealed. I think we'd have heard that process. But as it's not even got that far, have Wolves appealed? We don't. Surely it would be public to say that Wolves had appealed something. So I don't think we really know. It's an interesting one, but for me, I think not that he's not the same as Cunha. We talked about this earlier on, Nocky, but I think Aitnouri is very much the player you want in the Maverick role. He's the one that can dance past people and make things happen. Not obviously not the same level, but he's that person in there that's capable of absolutely anything when he's got the ball. I wouldn't move Rodrigo because I think I really like what he's offered in that position. He seems to have a good relationship on that side of the pitch. Minimal change. Hopefully, if it's the same for 11 are available, it's the same team again. But if Cunha is out, it feels like Aitnouri was the most sensible one to bring in.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is you can't replace Cunha, can you? Because he's that good. He's our best player by a country mile. So whatever you do, we're not going to be as strong as we were because he's that good. Aitnouri seems the sensible option to come in, but we've got other players who can drop into that role, and it could be a change of formation. We don't know what Vital's going to do in the long term. He might not want this system. He might just be using it because that's what fits the players at the moment. So it's really difficult to say until that ban comes through. The fact it hasn't come through now, you kind of think it could be after Christmas, don't you? And maybe we get the Man United game out of it. And if we do, you definitely fancy us against Man U in their current form if we keep Cunha in the team. So I just don't know. It seems strange how quiet it is. I think they threw it at us last week. So the fact that it hasn't dropped in yet is quite bizarre. There's obviously something going on there, but it's going to be so difficult to replace.
Yeah, tough one. Steve, Aidan, John, thank you for being part of this latest Wolves report. Quick one here from Sean. Did Chris enjoy Toti's defensive masterclass? Well, if I was going to answer that question on behalf of Toti, I'd say Wolves got a 0, goals conceded, it's a clean sheet. And you know how much I love a stat. Distribution-wise, I don't want to talk about that, but let's talk about his clean sheet. Did Chris enjoy it? No, but I think he enjoyed his day out at Leicester. Sean, thank you for being part of the Wolves report. Matt Alexander says, I feel confident in saying that this evening's episode we will have a more positive feel about it. Happy Christmas to you as well, Alexander. Greg carries on the transfer talk. Greg, other than the centre back, which positions do you think we need to strengthen in the January window? Nocky.
I want 2 centre backs. If I'm being honest, I want 2 centre backs. I probably want an attacking midfielder as another option, and I probably want. I know we won't get another central striker, but I'd be looking at maybe farming out some of them. Like I'd probably get rid of Hwang, Sarabia I'll probably get rid of, and I'll be looking for another player to come in that position who can play a little bit more centrally. I don't think we're a million miles away. I think in the these central areas we've got 2 starters for me in Andre and Gomez, and then you've got Lamina, who's probably now a third, and then Tommy Doyle to come in. So I think we're okay in that area. Right wing back, we've got Semedo and probably Doherty now, you 2 on that side, so we're looking okay there. Left wing back, I mean, are we going to sell Ait Nouri? I'm not sure we'll do it this window, but you've got 2 who can play over there. So we're looking relatively strong in most positions, but I definitely want 2 centre halves, and I definitely want someone else as an attacking option, I think, and we won't be a million miles away from me if we do that.
Yeah, Daz, the one area I've been looking at for a while is that we know Strand Larsen's a starter, we know Cunha's a starter, and then we sort of seen Bellegarde, we saw a little bit of Sarabia, and now Goncalo Guedes is in. If he's here to stay, I mean, I'm not going to use this, he's like a new signing, but having a player that's being used properly of his talent, that's got to be someone worth keeping around. I don't know, there's lots of talk of him, but as Nocky says, he looks happy and he's starting, and surely he's an absolute keeper.
Yeah, unless somebody comes in and offers the money, and he might want to go if it's somewhere, like from homeland or something like that. I want a left back as well, or a left wing back. I don't think Ait Nouri's not a good defender. He's terrific going forward, and then you're left with, like yesterday, a relative square peg, and I know he has played there before. You've got Totti, or then you're having to ask Semedo or Doherty to play there. I think that I agree with Nocky. 2 centre backs and a left back. I think you look at the defence, look at the numbers. We need to reconstruct that defence. I don't think can't be blinded by 1 clean sheet against a really poor team. We have to completely. I mean, I agree with you on the right hand side. Of course, unless he goes in January somewhere, somebody puts a couple of million down for Semedo in January, he might go with the fact his contract's up. I think we need to reconstruct this defence, the sooner the better. And if that means short-term players, just to get us to the end of the season, a bit like it was with Dawson 2 years ago, although he's still there, and people like that, I ain't got a problem with that. It's all about getting 7 wins from the remaining 21 matches to just about keep us up. And then we look at it again in the summer. We can't be doing any more. Oh, yeah. Like that Bastien Mayappo. Oh, yeah, he's going to be. No, we need players who can come in now who are going to make a difference to the team. Yeah. And it can't. And if this recruitment team, cannot find players who can improve that back four,
recruitment
they
team.
should not be in a job, because it can't be much. They can't. It's difficult to find people who are going to make it any worse. So that's for me. That is.
I'd be surprised, regardless of who comes in, that we aren't more leaning on and getting back into bed with Mendes, and I've no issue with that. People just have to be comfortable with the fact that for every Yotta you get a silver, and that's just the way it is. But Wolves are in this position and had those runs because of their relationship with George Mendes, because without him, Wolves wouldn't have had those moments. So it's got to be the rough with the smooth, and it's certainly better with him than without him.
Sorry, Matt, and how significant is it that after they trusted Matt Hobbs with the appointment of Bruno Lage's successor, and obviously he offered the job to Michael Beale. Fortunately, he was far too loyal to come to Wolverhampton Wanderers. Gary O'Neill, and then the new contract for Gary O'Neill. How telling is it that this time, as far as I'm aware, they've completely bypassed the sporting director and gone to Uncle George again to bring in a replacement? So I think Matt Hobbs has got a massive transfer window ahead to...
well, considering your job is to protect the squad for future, if your manager is poached or sacked, they couldn't find anybody, and to bring players in for the future, but equally now, which he hasn't done for a little while, and obviously the legacy at the moment is the Gary O'Neill situation. It's going to be an interesting time. Greg, thank you as always for being part of the show. Danny Roberts asks, with all the smiles during and after the game, some from players who've looked deflated for many weeks, is it fair to say that Gary O'Neill had lost the dressing room? Good question, that, Nocky. Had he lost? I'm not sure he'd lost the dressing room. I just think the players had lost faith in themselves in a bit. I'm not sure those players had given up, but the players, I mean, we love talking about the new manager bounce, and that's exactly what's happened so far. Wolves are off with a little bit of a bounce.
Yeah, I think it had just fallen apart, hadn't it? And when you look at the reaction after the last couple of games, where there's players kicking off at full time, and you had Jose Sarr climbing into the South Bank trying to get at someone. It just didn't look good, did it? So I think the whole thing had just collapsed. They obviously liked O'Neill. I'm sure they had a lot of respect for him, and I do think there's a decent manager in there. You've just got to go and learn your trade a little bit more. But it needed freshening up. It needed a change. There's not a chance in hell we would have won 3-0 yesterday if O'Neill had been in charge. But I think if O'Neill was to go to another club now and develop and understand the game a bit more at a club without some of the pressures of a relegation battle, I think he'll come back a very, very good manager. But I don't believe in the whole losing the dressing room thing, because players should be playing for personal pride regardless of what they think of the manager. But I just think it had fallen apart. I don't think they knew exactly what they were supposed to do, and I think we were trying too many different systems. I mean, this is a manager who was in charge for 18 months and still didn't know his best 11 or his best system. So it was just the right time for him to, the right time would have probably been 9 games ago, but it was an essential time to move him on, and they need that fresh start now, and you can see how invigorated the players were as a result of it.
Danny, thank you for being part of the latest Wolves report. Drew asks, could you see Ryan Aït-Nouri or Lamina leaving in January? Who is the biggest but most realistic shock transfer? Daz?
I wouldn't rule anything out. It's shock transfers regards in or out. I mean, as regards out, none of them would be shocks, would they? Because if somebody were to come in with the right money, then they'd go. And I know that's the model at Wolves, and it needs to change. And as much as I think they need to wake up and realise that you will not survive as a Premier League team running as a net zero spend year in, year out. But at the same time, there's a food chain, and if Real Madrid want to buy a player from Manchester United, they go. If Manchester United want to buy a player from Wolves, they go. If Wolves want to buy a player from Barnsley, they sign for Wolves. If Barnsley
want
to
that chain does.
They've got a food chain, isn't it? And obviously there will be more goings. I would suggest more likely in the summer. Hopefully, I think they're going to have a serious look at this, the way that the model is at the moment. So they're getting enough money in from Sky.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. I'm not sure you could rule anything out. I don't think you could sell any of your big names in January, because you sell one of your top players, you are rolling the dice of relegation. So I don't think Wolves can do. I don't think even something stupid like 80 million for Cunha, I don't think it's enough, because you can't replace what he offers to Wolverhampton Wanderers. Before, I'd have said like Sarabia, Guedes, those kind of guys going. But if Guedes is enjoying his football and he stays, then maybe Sarabia, he's talked about wanting to go for a while. So I'm Drew, I'm with Daz. I wouldn't rule anything out. But thank you for being part of.
Yes, that a lot of clubs are still on that tightrope as well. So again, without going into with the fine tooth comb, the finances of each club across Europe and the world or whatever, I'd be surprised if too many clubs in January are spending that sort of money on anybody. There might be one or two, but I can't see it again. You remember last January, they ended up showing on Sky on transfer deadline night. They ended up showing a darts match between some of the Sky Sports pundits, because there was absolutely nothing happening, and I think it might be a bit like that again in January as regards big money.
Coming summer 2025, the Wolves Report darts tournament. Yeah, we'll show them. Nocky.
If someone comes 80 million for Cunha, he'll be gone. But I don't see anyone putting that kind of money in January. There's like Dad said, there just isn't that money about. If someone was going to go, I could see maybe Semedo going or an Aït-Nouri going, because I think with Semedo, his contract's running out, and if someone comes in with decent money, they'll probably take it. Aït-Nouri, his levels have been very up and down lately, so I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't move on. But I would think they'd want to keep the nucleus of the squad, and unless there's an offer that really kind of tickles them, I think they'll keep what they've got. I don't think they'll be looking to offload too many, although I wouldn't be surprised to see Sarabia go. There'll be some movement, but I think there'll be more ins than outs, and then it'll be a real sort of rejig in the summer. And as Daz says, they've got to look at this model because it's not sustainable.
Yeah, quite incredible, really. In the summer, we turned down 21 million plus for Hwang. I find that absolutely incredible. But we shall see. He might come good the second half of the season. We never know. Drew, thank you for creating some debate on the Wolves report. Nocky and Daz, Gary asks, who do you think VP will choose as captain? Well, I think Nelson was captain the weekend, wasn't he? 1-3-0, we don't really need to change it. I think he talked about identifying the leaders earlier on. I said this before. I don't think the captain's armband is as important as people say. I think it's a lot more for glamour and for that, because when you're playing the game, we've all played football at different levels ourselves. You have various people talking, don't you, throughout the game. I think it's something that should be respected in the squad. But if Wolves are winning and people are taking all their responsibility, is it overly important, Daz?
It's a squad that's desperately lacking leaders. I've mentioned before, both on and off the pitch, and the last 3 summers I've sold the captain. Cody, Neves, Kilman, and Kilman weren't a captain for me either. So at the moment, I think Semedo's got it through default as much as anything. So whoever give the armband to, that's something else they need to look at in January and in the summer. When they're bringing players in, they need leaders, they need winners in there, because there's too many. And as we've seen with some of the shenanigans in recent weeks, that it's not right, and so they need some proper. I mean, Dawson would be ideal if he was like a year younger, but I'm not sure how many games he's going to play now, so I won't worry too much about it at the moment. But I think that's something they need to address. Again, they need to have some more people, just winners and leaders, and people who good role models and mentors for these players. Because again, this is not bash Matt Hobbs night, by the way, but if you think about it, I think he's been done a couple of times for approaching officials at the end of the game, and so if the players seeing the sporting directors doing that sends out the message, oh, it's all right to do that then.
Good point.
You know what I mean? So it starts at the top. Strong leadership at the top, experience, strongly all the way through, and you need those sort of players in the squad as well, and there aren't enough of them at the moment for my money. Maybe
we'll hopefully get some of those quality players and some strong leaders. Gary, thank you for being part of the show. Nocky, last but not least, Jonah asks, what are your initial thoughts on Pereira, and what areas do we need to strengthen in January to help this possession-based style? And I think we've covered that a little bit, but initial thoughts on the manager. You at their experience that moment at the end of the game, you kind of reluctantly came over, didn't he? Didn't know what to expect. He got the away end was absolutely booming. The Wolves fans in that away end, it is nice when they do the allays and the fist bump, because you feel like there's a connection and you're enjoying your moment. We just 1-3 at Leicester, and Wolves have been utterly trash. Why wouldn't you take your moment? So yeah, tactically made some brave changes, clean sheet, win. Got a song about him already, pretty simple one, but it's a great start, Knocker.
Yeah, I can only judge him on that 90 minutes against Leicester, and I like the setup, I like the organisation, I like the substitutions I worked, and his interviews before and after the game were intelligent. He seemed very articulate, and he seemed to understand what he wants to do, and he seemed to understand what the requirements are. So based on what I've seen so far, it's very positive. The fans are desperate to have someone in there that they can really get behind. So if we can keep churning out results, they'll keep backing him. But what I've seen so far, I'm pleased. But it's going to be 6 or 7 games till it all settles down and we know exactly what we're looking at for the rest of the season. But so far, so good. We've won a game with clean sheet, haven't we? So you've got to be pleased with that.
Jonah, thank you for rounding up the questions, and thank you to Daz and Nocky for answering them as well. Boxing Day is Wolves' next game. It's the tea time kick-off as Wolves face Manchester United. I feel like Wolves owe Manchester United. The initial early years of the Premier League, Wolves did quite well against Man United, but the screw has turned back in United's favour with a couple of interesting decisions and a few last-minute heartbreakers as well. Daz, if it ain't broke, you don't fix it. If Cunha's not suspended, surely it's the same again, isn't it?
Yeah, and keep Rashford away. Because the starting talk now doesn't might be like, yeah, keep Rashford out of the way. Because he
always scores past Wolves.
Wolves and keep the same Wolves 11, yeah.
Yeah, Nocky, Brian Ait-Nouri, would there be any temptation to bring him back in, or are we rewarding that same 11 again?
I don't see why you would. I think the 11 worked, the system worked. I think you go the same again as long as Cunha's fit. Well, why would he change it? So yeah, I think it will be the same 11, the same system, the same setup, and we go again.
Hopefully it is the same 11. You can catch Daz on Saturday and Sunday afternoons hosting the football shows. Usually he plays himself at one of the grounds. Also the football phone-in at 6 p.m. in the week. Daz, a little bit different over Christmas though for the football phone-in?
So it was the last football phone-in tonight, which Steve Herman did it. So it's back. Obviously we've got the match, you've got football coming out of our ears all over Christmas, and then the football phone-in will be back on the 2nd of January each night with the legends. But I've just finished off my Christmas list. I've only got one item on it. I want to be like Tyler.
I'll send you his coat, but you'll be have to use it as a quilt, mate, because it's absolutely huge.
Last but not least, let's do our predictions. Daz, give us your first scorer and correct score for Wolverhampton Wanderers v Man United.
1-1 Cunha.
We'll take a point there. Nocky?
Oh, he's pinched my prediction. I was going 1-1.
That's what they do at WM, mate. He's had you away.
He's had me away, and he's absolutely flummoxed me. No, I'll stick with 1-1 as well. Whenever I predict Wolves to win, we don't. So I'll go for a 1-1, and I'll go for Strand Larsen with a far post header.
Just a quick shout out to Tyler as well. I don't know if you remember, but I think he's pretty sure he said Wolves would win 3-0 at Leicester, and he got that right.
He didn't mean it though. He's not having any credit.
And
if
you don't credit him, he's just going to complain. You know what he's like. So I'm going to go with Wolves 2-1. Cunha. I might get one right ever on these episodes. Who knows? This has been episode 115 of the Wolves Report. Thank you to everybody for your support in 2024. Daz, thank you so much for coming on the show. Nocky, thank you as always. Merry Christmas to everybody. I hope you have a great time. Hopefully we're talking about the next win after Wolves have beat Man United. Merry Christmas. Love the Wolves.